So hi everyone and welcome to Queenswood's Sustainable Futures building. We are simultaneously here in person and Zooming, so I'm really hoping that we don't have any technological problems. People in the room, if there's a fire, we go out that door. If there's a fire, we go out a window, so that's fine. We've got multiple exit routes, and everyone on Zoom, if you wouldn't mind just muting yourselves, that would be really great. And there'll be an opportunity for questions later. You might notice me dive forward, and apologies, just to let more people in. Brilliant. So my name is Beth, and I am the Great Collaboration Coordinator. And the whole point of today is for me to kind of introduce the Great Collaboration Portal to you, as well as a toolkit that we've been developing. And you can start using this absolutely free of charge immediately. And the thing is, we kind of toyed with waiting lists and we deliberated with how much capacity we had to, and how much of a kind of hand-holding service we could really offer. And I'm really pleased to tell you that we've managed to get some funding secured from MCS again, as well as Neighbourly. So what I'm sharing with you today is where we're at right now. We've still got funding for another year or so, which is absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to talk for probably about 30 minutes or so, and then there'll be opportunities for questions and things. And I've also got obviously all of these boards around the room, and I've left a bit of time for some informal ambling, and I will be around as well at the end. And I'm going to keep diving forward now and again, just to double check. Oh, lovely. We've still got no questions in the chat there. So this is really an opportunity for every single local council in Herefordshire to use the same format when it comes to their energy percent action plans, and crucially their reporting. And it's a format that I think has kind of led from really effective community engagement and a responsive local government. So I really believe that the task at hand needs boots on the ground. We need people power and communication between those people and the parish as well. And loads of us have already declared climate emergencies, and therefore we've committed to getting our houses in order, as well as committed to net zero in our communities. And when I've gone to schools or local councils or transition groups or community groups or anybody really, I have found the same, I found the same tired faces, kind of in danger of burning out under the pressure. And there's a lot of guilt and a lot of feelings of, especially guilt towards the younger generation, why didn't we do something sooner? A lot of feelings of perhaps impotency, or inadequacy of some kind. And a lot of people are tuning into COP at the moment and thinking about this kind of code red for humanity. Now, I don't know about you, but it feels to me that when we start to try and solve one problem, we kind of realise that it's all interconnected with all of the other problems. And it's daunting, and it can be really lonely. So we named ourselves a Great Collaboration for a reason, and that is because we need to collaborate and turn the me into we. So I would like to share with you, before I kind of begin with some of the more corporate talk, a metaphor that I found really useful when considering the many systemic problems that we face, be it globally or locally. Now, I've obviously stolen this from my children's bookcase, and don't worry, I am not going to read you the story of the very hungry caterpillar, but I do want you to think about the caterpillar, because we know their life cycle. But imagine if we didn't know what their future held, if we just observed the caterpillar at that moment in their life, we would see that it is living in a fundamentally unsustainable way. They're eating their own ecosystem, and this constant net growth and consumption and this constant polluting, it's in the same way that if you were to observe a bird or a reptile in their fetal state, they're eating the egg white which they live, and it will run out, and they're polluting their home with their own waste and ultimately following an existence that is unsustainable. And he wasn't little any longer, he was a big fat caterpillar, and the caterpillar gets to the point where he has to shift, and he could not have done it any earlier. And I think that's the key point. He needed to shed his skin and go through a series of molts and a series of adaptations. And we now live in a world where a child in some of the poorest countries on earth has access to more information on their smartphone than the President of the United States did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, last year probably. So who knows, this information and the rapidly growing resources that we have makes me kind of believe that our leaders are working within an old model. They're tweaking an old system, and we need a fundamentally different system. But we have the capacity to shift and to change and transform, and now it is necessary to evolve. So our net growth and consumption is unsustainable. And together, I think it's really important that we get creative, collaborative, and we take meaningful action. So we don't need our leaders to become self-organising. They're at COP26 now doing their thing. That's great. We can do our thing down here in Herefordshire, and we can do it together, and we can evolve together. So it is with gratitude that I say thank you very much to the old system for getting us to this point. But now it is time for communities to come together and to really do something pioneering. So a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today is a bit corporate and involves some management talk, which I'm not a huge fan of. But behind these standardised operating systems, there are people who really, really care, and there is support in our network. And everything that has been achieved so far that I'm going to share with you has been done with a lot of volunteer hours and probably maximum 2 days a week paid. So what I'm about to share with you today is a starting point, and I'm really hopeful about what can happen with our newfound funds. So, so at the centre of our toolkit here, we have the portal. I'll just get these up. And this is the website itself, which is a database-driven, custom-built software package based upon a mixture of open and closed source robust frameworks, using a range of modern and future-proof coding and query languages to create a web platform for individual and organisational use. And hats off to you if you understand what that means, because I don't have a clue. But essentially, it is over 60 actions, and we've just displayed a few of them around the room here. And they're under the themes of transport, business, buildings, transport, land use, food and waste, energy, money, and using your political voice. And these actions have been robustly researched, along with their carbon reduction, impact, and they've also been rated by cost. And interestingly, loads of these actions are completely free. It is about behavioural change a lot of the time. Now, experts in their field contributed to all of this information at the back end, but it wasn't just approved by the Centre for Alternative Technology. Dr. Anthony Herford, who is the project manager of the Zero Carbon Britain Hub and the Innovation Lab, recognises the potential for this tool for finding out what needs for support exist at community level and what actions are already being taken to transition to net zero greenhouse gas emissions. In addition, he says that this tool is vitally important for efficient use of resources. And let's face it, we really don't have many resources at all. So reinventing the wheel isn't a hugely productive use of our time. So this site also contains locally relevant information, and there's an opportunity to dive deeper into each of these subjects, should a user wish to. So essentially it's differentiated. so that individuals, businesses, community groups, anybody can use the portal and commit to the actions that they want to do. So the ones that users are unable to commit to will form part of the key data that enables local councils to see the barriers that exist within their communities and then act. And I'll talk a wee bit more about that at the reporting stage. But essentially, it's an interactive web platform to support and encourage communities to reduce their carbon and ecological footprints. And it really provides opportunities for conversations and relationships and a sense of community, really, between families, individuals, organisations and the parish and beyond, to be honest, and really trying to emphasise what can be done together. So the first part of our toolkit that we are offering to everyone for free, obviously, is the Great Collaboration Handbook. And this is essentially a really short document, and it outlines all of the tools that are available to you. It's kind of a simplified version of this talk, basically. It's not pages and pages of writing at all. It's just a place where you can go to find everything that you need with your linked documents throughout. And the process is really quite clear and fairly straightforward. So declaring a climate emergency, lots of local councils have already done this. Some of you had members of the public who really argued and urged you to pass this declaration. And some of you are yet to declare it. So that's kind of the first document that I'll go through, and the promotion side of things as well. Maybe you come from a local council where the relationship and the way that you communicate with people, ordinary people in your parish, is really effective. In my experience, though, there seems to be this gap between ordinary people and the local council. And then I will go on to tell you about some of the reporting that we offer. And this is what makes this tool pioneering, to be honest with you, and completely different to anything else that exists outside of this room. And the reports are there to inform local council actions. So the first thing we have then is this local council climate emergency declaration. And this is essentially a pledge. It's a pledge for a local council, and it will need to pass, it will need to be passed at full council. And it's a document that can be displayed on the council website for public viewing. And this was quite interesting to me because this doesn't exist much in the country at all. Have a look at the toolbar at the top. The climate emergency is really prominently placed on their website. Wouldn't it be amazing if every single local council in the country, let alone Herefordshire, did this and placed it? It's not difficult at all, and gave it as much emphasis as some of those other items on the toolbar there. So the document that we've got for you has an opening statement, an emergency statement, which outlines our responsibilities, and it's something that the local council would agree to. It tells you to produce an energy descent action plan or carbon reduction plan, a report yearly to show progress, and it is a declaration to say that you will use the Great Collaboration. We provide loads of details about the Great Collaboration, including how to engage with communities and suggested communication channels. We suggest that a permanent agenda item be added to every single full council meeting, and that should really include progress on your actions defined in your Energy Descent Action Plan, as well as any resident or business queries or actions taken or requests for help. And all of that can be informed by a report which is generated from our website. So monitoring this progress is vital to ensure that this kind of seemingly distant threat is kept at the forefront of our minds. So we've included information about how to conduct community carbon calculating and gathering local specific data. And I talked about the impact tool quite a lot, to be honest with you. And it's been carried out, calculations been carried out by researchers at the Centre for Sustainable Energy and the University of Exeter's Centre for Energy and the Environment. And if anything comes on the market that has more robust data, then it's something we can easily update. But for the time being, it is free, which is good. It's also being promoted by Herefordshire County Council, and it serves as a benchmark really that can be analysed annually. So I mean, I quite like this tool, but I have a weird obsession with typing in local councils and seeing what the differences are in their carbon emissions, but there is potential there that I might need to get a life. So the next kind of toolkit item that we have is all about promotion and marketing. And we were really, really lucky actually. We got some pro bono work from a company called Firestarter. This is just a screenshot. What they did was amazing. Really great work. And they basically told us about the messaging that we need to use to promote the tool with residents and businesses, as well as which channels to use, how to schedule everything, detailed execution plans. Really, really brilliant. And I'm just showing this with you because I think it's really fascinating that the thing that we're looking at here, the number one target, are those people who like the idea of being environmentally friendly, but they don't really want to interfere with their lifestyle, or to really change much. So our task is to help them to see how easy it is to start making a difference and to educate them through these actions about those different steps that they can take. And essentially, all of our communities have a mix of all of these different types of people. And we believe that the first step is trying to get 20% of your local community using this tool. And that would be a really huge step forward. And the first 20% is always the hardest. So for example, the population of Frowncote is about 800. And that's only about 160 people using the tool. That's perfectly doable. That's easy, I think. But then you look at Leinster, and the population is just over 12,000. So 20% of that is about 2,500 people using it. And that number sounds a little bit more scary, doesn't it? But Mortimer Secondary School has got 550 students in it. And that's just the students. What about their families? What about the people who work there? So actually, I think with some clever marketing, getting 20% of your local community on board with this, I don't think is beyond the bounds of possibility at all. So we wanted to make these marketing resources as easy as possible to use. But it's also an area that we really want to heavily invest in. We've had some really generous offers from people that would allow us to work on our centralised marketing and things like automated emails and our PR and our advertising. So I really predict that in the next few months or so, you'll see our presence in Herefordshire begin to grow and grow. And the thing is, if local councils are also promoting it at the local level, then we'll start to see these conversations and these actions taking place, and the great collaboration really acts as a catalyst for that. So we've put together, I mean, this is just a tiny little bit, but we've put together a series of images and texts and videos. And essentially the document that we produced has all of the text and everything on it as well. So it's a case of copying and pasting to your communication channels that are available to you. We've obviously also got print-based media and things like that as well. And a couple of whizzy videos, which interestingly don't work. Oh, never mind. We'll go on YouTube and you can see the videos. I'll send them out to you. Obviously not liking Chrome and being cast across the screen here. So the next stage that I'd like to, oh, that's the other thing I was going to say, is that we've also produced things for face-to-face launches, and Frowncote and Marden have already had a face-to-face launch. And that's probably something that people consider maybe when the weather's a bit better, or maybe when we've all had COVID. I don't know how that's going to pan out in the next few months. But it's a rolling process. You don't have to have a face-to-face launch in order to start using this. That's just another way of having conversations with people. There are multiple channels that we can use, and we try to give as many resources as possible for each of those channels. So it's a rolling process, and the marketing that we all do supports each other, and none of it's done in isolation. So the next item in our toolkit is all about reporting and the parish council report. And this is what sets us apart from everything else that's out there. So when parishes adopt the Great Collaboration, they'll be encouraged to add the Great Collaboration as an agenda item to their regular council meetings, though detailed reports would probably be more effective once a year. So in the on the website, there's an insights section, and there's an insights section, and you can access information like this instantly. Anyone can, and it basically shows you how many users are signed up to your area, as well as how many users are engaged. And an engaged user is basically somebody who is committed to some actions. Now, the local council report contains sufficient information to allow the council to make decisions about what actions to take to support their residents and businesses. So this is like quite a basic amount of information, but yearly you can look back on the PDF file that's generated by the website. You can look back at the data from the last 12 months. You can look back at how many people are engaged compared to what the target was. But more importantly, really, is that you can hone in on each of these actions and see where the need for help is. So we want to, obviously, the more people using the tool, the more robust the data is. So it's very much about this kind of step-by-step guide, really. You have to do the marketing to get the people to create accounts, to get that data, to then really have an idea of what needs exist within your community. So, you know, you've got to the point where you've got loads of your community, let's just presume, loads of your community using the portal. You've looked at the data that's come through and the reports, and now you have to set some actions that are informed by what your community is telling you. It's quite democratic, really, isn't it? You would have thought local government listening to what the people are telling them. So what do we actually do? That's the big question, isn't it? And a piece of work that we've started to do here is to take each of these actions and match them against the local council actions. We really need to work on the acronyms here, because we've got Energy Percent Action Plan, we've got Carbon Reduction Action Plan, which obviously isn't going to work at all. But we need to think of something that's a little bit more jazzy, don't we? I don't know where these terms have come from, but I don't think they're any good. So essentially, this is something that we want to help with, and this is where HGN actually has access to experts across Herefordshire and beyond, and where local councils, especially local councils who are members as well, who are committed to this network, can really start to share some of their ideas and some of their best practice. So essentially, this document takes all of those actions, this is obviously just a screenshot, and matches them to suggested council actions. So for example, and this is just what came off the top of my head last night after I put my daughter to bed. So if the community is telling you that a hugely reduced energy demand from buildings, including heritage assets, is needed, then some of the things that could be the supporting local actions, council actions, could be conducting a housing study to find out about the ownership type, the sort of stock that you've got, the planning restrictions, you know, fuel poverty, getting that data. Keep Herefordshire Warm are doing brilliant things there. You could develop best practice designs for an updated neighbourhood plan. You could showcase carbon reduction in local homes and raise awareness of energy efficiency and kind of normalise those behavioural changes. You could do a school campaign to reduce energy bills, and we've already got the resources for that ready to go. You could work with local landlords to encourage energy efficiency. You could empower tenants, work with local shops and do, you know, a lights off at night campaign, or obviously if it's safe, but take that into consideration. You could promote a checklist for businesses about how to save energy. You could link that with some Good Business Award. You could look at thermal imaging cameras, and I've mentioned Keep Herefordshire Warm there as well, and they've got a lot of data there. So these are just some ideas off the top of my head for one tiny action within over 60 of them. And this particular piece of work to develop is something that we want to develop, and we want to share stories and case studies and experiences and expertise. And that's really what we mean when we say the great collaboration, about everybody coming together. So I have whizzed through that. Essentially, this is where we are right now. This is our toolkit as it stands, free to use for anybody, and you can really get cracking with it straight away. But in terms of next steps, things that you can do in the next few days, I think the things that I would do, these are my suggestions essentially. I would join HDN as a council for £50 annually, because not only do you get our newsletter, which you can distribute anywhere to anybody, we don't limit that at all, and that gives you a summary of everything that's happening in Herefordshire to do with sustainability. But it also means buying into an idea, buying into our network and the work that we do. And, you know, we want to be able to offer everything, all of our workshops, all of our gatherings, all of this for free. And by supporting us with your membership, it really does go a long way. So that's something that people can do. And if you want to pass any comments on this evening, you've got suggestions, you want to get involved, you want access to all the documents, so we can give you the link for them, then email me, and that's my email address there, one of many. And the next thing you could do is to make sure that the Great Collaboration is an agenda item at the next full council meeting, and you could actually start looking through the declaration and getting that signed off. So I think, oh my goodness, that's exactly 30 minutes. Wow.